Hello, everyone. Welcome to ICC's Game of the Day, coming to you from the London Chess Classic 2015, the last leg of the FIDE Grand Tour. Very important event, not just in itself, but also for the Grand Tour and the final placings with the top players in the world participating. I'm Grandmaster Davis Smerdon from Australia, who was one of your commentators for today's round two, along with Super Grandmaster Gadakamski. And today we had 5 draws, which meant that the final standings have not been changed. The Dutchman, my fellow countryman, now that I live in the Netherlands, Vachier-Lagrave is still in the lead with just the one win that we've had so far out of the 10 games over the 2 rounds. And everyone else on 1 point except for Anish's victim in the first round, Vachier-Lagrave, who, by the way, is the current leader in the standings of the Grand Tour. So things getting very exciting. Actually, today, the 5 draws weren't too boring at all. We had a good time commentating. I'm going to show you a little clip from the Carlsen-Caruana game, and then we'll go on to our game of today, which is the game of Caruana-Nakamura versus the Frenchman Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. So 3 of the draws were not particularly exciting. The Giri-Adams game, a small edge for Giri, but nothing too special. Vachier-Topalov got basically no edge against Alexander Grischuk, and that game also fizzled out to a draw. And the game Aronian and Anand, again, really a reasonably disappointing game by Aronian with white, almost ending up with a slightly worse position, but the end game was still perfectly safe, and Aronian held it without too many difficulties. Carlsen-Caruana, however, was a bit of a different story. Now, of course, many people feel that Fabiano Caruana is the rightful heir to the throne, the next challenger of Carlsen. We actually predicted Carlsen to start with e4, and we also predicted there to be a Berlin attempted by Caruana. Actually kind of felt that Carlsen would go down and take on Fabiano's Berlin, but that didn't happen. He played 4 castles, which leads to a symmetrical pawn structure with only the e-pawns disappearing, and this position generally considered to be nothing at all special for white. Bishop e7, slightly unusual. Bishop c7 is the normal move. And after knight f5, knight e7, check knight takes bishop on c8. White has very, very small advantage of the 2 bishops. Nothing special. The way that this game progressed, actually, Magnus did get a slight advantage here with the move bishop e5. Now, the position looks entirely symmetric, but actually that's not the end of the story, because this bishop on e5 is so annoying that it looks like black will have to take it, and after d takes e5, he's got a bit of a problem with his pawn on d5. However, Magnus played rook takes e5, and after rook e8, we expected him to keep the rook there, play a move like queen b3, again inviting black to be the one to exchange on e5. But instead, Magnus took and played queen b3, and I guess the thing that Magnus missed was queen b6, and after queen takes d5, a6, bishop moves bishop e6, and it turns out that there's no way for white to hang on to his extra pawn in this position. So again, Magnus, he's not really been hitting his strides in the last few months, and this was a small little oversight. But then the Magnus that we've come to know and appreciate started to take over the game, because he managed to sort of create something out of nothing in this position with the move rook e1. Now after rook d8, d6. Now at this point, both Gada and myself thought that there were absolutely no problems for Caruana, because we thought he could just play the move queen takes a2. But it turns out when we were analyzing, we realized that white has an incredibly strong move, queen d4 in this position. And this queen's incredibly powerful, because not only is she defending d6, but she's covering a1 and also creating threats along the really strong, long, dark diagonal. So for instance, after queen a3, it's not actually threatening the d6 pawn, because after h4, if you play rook takes d6, then rook e8 is checkmate, and queen takes d6 also gets hit by rook e8, winning the queen. So this position is really quite difficult for black, because white's got a really simple plan. He's just going to play d7, which threatens rook to e8 check, and there doesn't seem to be a good way to defend against that. So this position is already really tricky, but it